and welcome to Community Conversations. I'm host KK Kaneshiro. It's our first show of the new school year, and if you're a regular viewer, you may have noticed a different look to things. Like many other aspects in our lives these days, we have taken Community Conversations show virtually. Despite the new and hopefully very temporary format, we're still looking forward to highlighting all of the great programs and people at Fremont Unified. And one of those great people is FUSD's new superintendent, CJ Cammack. CJ joined the district on August 1st and has dived right into some very interesting times in education. We are happy to have CJ with us to learn more about his background and to find out what we're looking forward to in the new school year. So CJ, welcome, welcome,
Thank you so
welcome.
much. It's my pleasure to be here, and I'm so thrilled to be a part of the Fremont community and Fremont Unified School District.
And on the very first show of the new year.
Yes.
Okay, so you've been on the job for a couple months now. How's it been? I mean, these are very strange times, so I can't imagine what you're going through.
It is certainly a very unique time for everybody in our world. There are so many challenges that we're facing, both on a health perspective, on political fronts, from racial and social injustices. So it is a very unique time for all of us. And public schools never operate in a vacuum. We operate as
Right.
part of the larger society. So there are a number of challenges, but the start to my time in Fremont has been great. I've had an incredibly warm welcome from
Okay.
people across the community, from people within the district. I have been remarkably impressed by the talented staff that works for Fremont Unified. I've had some great parent conversations already. And in the opportunities I've had to interact with students, I have just been completely amazed by how wonderful they are. Despite all the challenges, my start with Fremont has been wonderful.
Great. Now, I have a question just from my personal curiosity. How was the interview process? Was that in person, 6 feet apart, or was it virtual as well? Was it a Zoom meeting? How did that go?
My interview process was a combination of both.
Okay.
Um, some of it took place over Zoom, and some of
Mhm.
it took place in person.
Okay.
When we were in person, everybody was wearing the appropriate personal protective equipment or maintaining the appropriate physical distancing.
Okay.
And it was a little bit of everything. It was not necessarily the traditional interview experience, um, but uh, certainly I think it was a very comprehensive process. It
Yeah.
was certainly a very challenging process.
Yeah.
And I am very thrilled that I was provided the opportunity to be the new superintendent.
And we are too. So, my next question. We all know that you were a superintendent in your previous life, but what has surprised you being a superintendent for
Mm.
Fremont Unified?
Um, that's a great question, KK. I don't think that there's a lot that has surprised me about being a superintendent for Fremont Unified. And I think part of the reason is because um, I did a lot of work in preparation for
Okay.
arriving in Fremont. So I felt like I prepared myself very well to arrive here and be productive right away. And what I think the other thing that is just a practical reality the last 4 to 5 years is because I have had the opportunity to be a superintendent before arriving in Fremont,
Hmm.
I've worked through things that we didn't traditionally see for a long time, things such as power outages, smoke days,
Ah,
wildfires, a significant increase in school threats.
hmm.
There's been a lot that's happened the past 4 or 5 years that
Right.
have really been significant, uh, unplanned or unprecedented developments. And being a superintendent when the COVID-19 pandemic started in the spring also has just presented me over the last 4 or 5 years with a number of experiences where even though there's things that we just can't anticipate, I feel prepared to help lead Fremont through whatever may be coming next.
Excellent, excellent. Now, this is a great segue to your background. Did you start out as an admin or were you a teacher? How did your career start?
My career started as a fifth grade teacher.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I loved teaching in the elementary school level. And after teaching fifth grade, I became a middle school vice principal and
Okay,
then ultimately an elementary school principal.
okay,
And from there, I became director of student services and special education before I moved into human resources. And
okay.
in working in human resources, I transitioned from Martinez Unified down to San Ramon Valley Unified, where I
Okay.
was their assistant superintendent for human resources, which was a great experience for me,
Mhm.
especially giving me experience in a large comprehensive district similar
Right.
to Fremont.
Right.
And then after leaving San Ramon, I went back to Martinez Unified to become their superintendent.
Wow. Full
Yes.
circle. Now, when you first started out as a teacher, being an admin is usually not in the radar for most teachers starting out. So what made you make that change? Because that's a huge change from dealing with students. Now you're dealing with adults and the school district and how they operate and all the processes. What piqued your interest in participating in that whole admin world?
I moved into education because I knew I wanted to make a difference in the world for children. And I believe that if I can do that, I can make a better world for tomorrow. And in as I began that work as a teacher, I looked very much at my classroom every year and said, what can I do to significantly improve the lives of these 35 students that I have in my grade classroom?
Yeah.
And as I did that, I began to take a larger lens at if I were to become a school principal, what could I do to significantly change the lives of the 530 students that are in this school?
Hmm.
And if I can do that well, but also influence the lives of all of the individuals who worked at the school site, and in some ways, maybe help influence in a positive way the lives of the families that are connected with the school site. And so that was my original lens of moving into administration. And
Okay.
I realized from that point that there's really a lot of benefit that can be provided when there's an effective leader who can help increase the
Yeah.
effectiveness of the organization. And I've kind of taken that mindset and continued to carry it forward through every increase in leadership role that I've taken on.
Okay. Now you are a very successful superintendent in Martinez. What attracted you to Fremont?
Well, what attracted me to Fremont is it has been widely known throughout the state as a very high achieving and successful school district.
Hmm.
And as I did more research into Fremont, it was very apparent that there was an exceptionally talented administrative team here, that there was a really, really strong group of teachers, classified staff, and support staff. And as I did my homework intently in applying for this position, it was very clear that there was a supportive and engaged community,
Hmm.
and that the Board of Education was a group of individuals who really had the interest of students and a passion for student success at the core of everything that they're doing. So when
Yeah.
I looked at all those characteristics, it was very much a place that I wanted to come and be part of this program.
Well, we are so excited you're here. From the community standpoint, we're very excited. Now, because of what we're dealing with, the whole situation with COVID and everything, distance learning has been like the priority for a lot, just not the school district, but also parents. But how's that going? Are the parents receptive to this? Do they constantly need help, or how are you aiding the parents in this transition?
Well, in terms of the parents, there's a lot that needs to be said, and when the first is a compliment. I thank our parents for all that they're doing to try and help support their students in this. And secondary to that is a compliment to our staff. I have seen a lot of the
Mhm.
distance learning programs that are out there, and I have to say, even though I am biased now towards Fremont Unified, they I have been incredibly impressed with the work that our educators and the support staff have been doing and our administrators. The distance learning programs that we put in place have been exceptional. That does not mean that they are without challenges,
Yeah.
and we recognize that those are there. But I've been remarkably impressed, and I have two children of my own. My son is an eighth grader, my daughter's a fifth grader. So I understand very keenly what distance learning is like for our school age children. And I had the privilege to be invited to read to a group of first grade students this year.
Nice,
And
nice.
that was an incredible experience. And there's a lot of empathy and appreciation that I think should be sent towards our educators for all the work that they're doing, just
Okay.
as it should be for our families,
Yeah.
because it is certainly a heightened level of intensity and a shared responsibility like we haven't seen before.
Right. Now, is there some kind of lifeline for parents, or do they strictly just deal with the teacher
Well,
itself?
the teacher is their first interaction.
Okay.
And then after that, if there's a challenge that they might be having, then it would be reaching out to the administrator or the principal
Okay.
of their school site.
Okay.
And then we have worked to build some resources for parents to access.
Oh, nice.
And our instructional services team has been working on that. And we've also had some very involved and supportive parents who've been offering to help out as well. So I think between the resources that we've been able to put together and the resources that we're continuing to develop, we've been able to offer some support for our parent
Okay.
community, but
Good.
we'll certainly look at how we can continue to do that.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. Now, not every family has the financial means to have laptops and, the high-speed internet and all that. How is the district helping in that for families in
So we
need?
are doing the best that we can. So far,
Mhm.
we've been able to provide Chromebooks to most or all of the families that have needed them.
Okay.
The other thing that we've been working to provide is hotspots. So we sent out hundreds of hotspots in the spring, and we've purchased another large bunch of hotspots that have been arriving just in the last few days. And those are getting programmed, and we're hoping to get those out as well. So access to the internet has been one of the things that has been a challenge. And we've had some great support from community partners like the Fremont Education Foundation,
Nice.
generous donations from their $20 in the 2020 campaign.
Yeah.
And with that, we've been able to move forward with some purchasing of hotspots. And we're grateful for that. And we look forward to getting those out to the families that still may need them. But we have been able to provide a significant number of devices for families that might
Okay.
need them and hotspot devices as well.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a plug here for you guys. So if any of our viewers are watching and they would like to donate money to help with more hotspots or any other computer needs families may need, who should they contact if they want
Uh,
to donate money? Should it be
they can look
FEF?
on the FEF website, or they can look on the Fremont Unified School District website. There's a button on our homepage for a donation, and you can
Perfect.
donate through their website as well at FEF.
Perfect. Thank you so much for doing that. Now, speaking of families in need, there's a lot of families that rely heavily on school meals. How are we helping these families still with school meals? And if so, is it only the parents that can pick up the meals, or can, my eighth grader go pick up his own meal while I'm at work, or how does this all
That's a
work out?
great question, KK, and we've had some changes in that because last spring, you may recall that we were able to provide food for all children in our community ages 2 through 18.
Right.
And the USDA made some adjustments, and we didn't think that we'd be able to do that this fall. But just after we started school, they let us know that they're making some more adjustments, and we now are able to provide food for all the students in our
Okay.
community ages 2 through 18, irregardless of what school they're enrolled in. And they can come pick that up at one of 30 locations
Okay.
across the district, and those locations can be found on our website, or you can look through our social media channels on Twitter and Facebook. We put information out through those around the 30 locations and the times that you can pick up the food, and
Mhm.
someone can come pick up the food on behalf of students.
Okay. As well as the student
Yes.
himself? Perfect. Perfect. Um, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask another question that's not here. I know you have school psychologists and counselors available. If a student is in need of talking to somebody, can they always call up their own counselors for just to talk?
Yes, our school psychologists and counselors are available, and our
Okay.
district office support, our site administration, and all of our employees have been very focused on the mental health of our students. We recognize that remaining in distance learning is a challenge in many ways, and one of those
Yes.
is related to mental health. And so, if there's a student out there who may need support, they can reach out to their school site administrator, to their school counselor, to their teacher,
Okay.
and we will help put them in contact with somebody who can talk with them.
How about the parents? No, I'm kidding. Okay. Now, the big question is, I mean, everyone, they understand what's going on with the virus. They understand, we have to keep social distancing, but at the same time, they're also impatient for the schools to be open. How are you dealing with that?
Well, there will be some more information that comes out to our community very soon in a newsletter from myself, and we do
Okay.
talk about this at our Board of Education meeting on Wednesday. So, as viewers may know, Alameda County has just recently moved into the red tier.
Right.
And what that means is after 14 days in the red tier, schools are permitted but not required to open up for in-person instruction.
Okay.
Now, what I want to also make very clear is Alameda County Public Health still has the authority to determine if that is going to be permitted. That being said, we did talk about this at our Board of Education meeting, and we are going to continue developing a reopening plan that is in alignment with the updated mandates and requirements, and those are changing. I'll talk about those in just a moment. Next time we're going to engage in that discussion is at our November meeting of the
Okay.
Board of Education. So I would want our viewers to know that we're not making a change to our distance learning program right now, even though we've transitioned into the red category. And in large part, it's because there is still a lot that needs to be done, and still a substantial spread of COVID-19 within the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work that has to get done, and the requirements still remain intensive.
Yeah.
If we were to reopen for instruction, we would still need to have all of the PPE requirements in place and the physical distancing. And of the school districts that I have seen across the state that have reopened for in-person instruction, they have all implemented, or most of them that I have seen have implemented a hybrid schedule because of the physical distancing requirements, which
Ah,
means students would only be coming to school a few days a week in
okay.
smaller groups.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that has to be done there, and one of the things that we're seeing from the state and county is a likely requirement that we'll have to do a lot of asymptomatic testing of our staff. So right now, the guidance indicates roughly a 50% ratio. So for Fremont Unified, of our roughly 31 or 3,200 staff members, we would need to test 25% of those staff members every 2 weeks. So
Wow.
we are engaged in the conversation about how to safely return to in-person instruction, but we want to make sure that we do that in a very appropriate and methodical and thoughtful process,
Hmm.
because safety of our staff, our students, and our community has to be paramount. And I
Right.
understand there's a lot of tension around when and how we'll bring students back, but want our viewers to know that we are focused on that. We will continue to focus towards that target, but we want to take a very cautious approach to doing so.
Great. Now, I have one question before we have to end the show. Um, Regardless of what we're dealing with now or once it's over, what are your goals for Fremont Unified? Do you have any special plans that you can let us in
That's
on?
a great question. This, as I said in the beginning, Fremont has a rich tradition of high achievement and excellent
Hmm.
schools. So, what I would like to bring to Fremont is a model of servant based leadership that engages the community and all of our stakeholders and our staff in an authentic process where we can take what we have and make it better, where we can continue to move forward and grow, and also where we can be honest with ourselves about areas of need where we're
Hmm.
not doing enough to meet the needs of all of our students, where
Yeah.
we need to help address racial and social injustices that exist within our systems.
Hmm.
So, my hope is that I can bring those things to Fremont, that I can help lead the changes that we need to make and continue to take Fremont Unified from the place that it is to an elevated place in the future.
Great. CJ, it's such a pleasure to meet you, and I wish you all the best of luck. You don't need it, but I do wish you all the best. Thank you so much for being on
My
this
pleasure.
show.
Thank you so much for having me, and I wish you the best as well.
And don't be a stranger to
You
the
got
show.
it. I'll be back. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for watching. From everyone here at Community Conversations, we do appreciate you watching, and please be safe out there. See you next time.